More, let me bring in Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont. Senator, good to have you with us tonight.
Great to be with you, Ed.
You bet. How will the middle class issues like the minimum wage and income inequality, as this day is unfolding, do you think that these issues have played into what we've seen so far as turnout is concerned in some of these pockets that we've talked about around the country?
Well, I hope so. And I think, Ed, what is very clear is that the Republicans have refused to really talk about their ideas and their agenda if they gain control of the Congress. And I will tell you exactly what that agenda is. It is more tax breaks for billionaires and large corporations. They will cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, nutrition, and education. They will expand and increase military spending, and they will refuse to acknowledge the reality of climate change, despite what virtually the entire scientific community is telling us. In terms of the minimum wage, you've got more and more Republicans who not only will not raise the minimum wage, they want to do away with the concept of the minimum wage, which means that in high unemployment areas, people can work for $4 or $5 an hour. Look, Ed, there is a reason why the Koch brothers and other billionaires are spending hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars on this election. They want a Congress that will work for the 1% and stick it to the middle class and working families. And that's what Senator, we have got to make sure does not happen.
On this issue, we have some new exit polling data at this moment. The NBC News exit polls asked voters in some key Senate races today whether they favored raising the minimum wage. And in every case, according to preliminary data, solid majorities said yes. Sizable numbers of Republicans are on board with raising the minimum wage. 44% in Louisiana, 37% in North Carolina, 39% in Iowa, and 31% in Georgia. What's your reaction to that, Senator? Everything that you have talked about is clearly in the majority and on the minds of voters when it comes to wage earners in this country. That's our polling data at this moment.
Ed, if you look at the major issues facing this country, raising the minimum wage, rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure and creating millions of decent paying jobs, expanding Social Security. If you look at the major issues facing our country, the American people, whether they're progressive or conservative, want to go forward. They reject the Republican agenda. What the Republicans have managed to do, quite cleverly, I must say, is to deflect attention from their agenda and blame Barack Obama for every problem that this country faces. So I think when people understand what the Republicans really stand for, they don't do very well. But they have done a pretty good job in disguising that.
We also asked the question in the state of Wisconsin, where the minimum wage has been an issue in the governor's race. Incumbent Republican Governor Scott Walker recently said that he didn't think the minimum wage serves a purpose. And President Obama campaigned for Democratic challenger Mary Burke last week in Milwaukee, highlighting her support for the minimum wage. In our Wisconsin exit poll tonight, 65% favored an increase. And that, according to our exit poll, included 45% of Republicans, Governor Scott Walker's voters. What do you make of it?
What I make of that is the American people understand that the federal minimum wage of $7.25 is a starvation wage. It is not a wage that anybody can live on with any shred of dignity. If we raise the minimum wage to at least $10.10 an hour, over 25 million Americans get a pay raise. That is what the American people want.
Yeah. Senator, these are my thoughts. If the Senate goes to the majority with the Republicans, if they control, I think you're going to see fast-track legislation. I don't think you're going to see the minimum wage on a federal level be addressed. I think you're going to see a push for the corporate tax rate to be lowered, because that's what they've been talking about a lot. But the big question in all of this, Senator, isn't this going to put pressure on President Obama to stand tall with progressives who solidly are against the TPP, who are solidly in favor of the minimum wage? Most progressives, I think, in polling want to make sure that the corporate tax rate stays exactly where it is, and in fact try to get corporations to pay their fair share. I mean, if the Senate is taking... Go ahead.
1 out of 4 corporations today doesn't pay a nickel in federal income tax. Collectively, back in the 1950s, they contributed over 30% of our federal tax revenue. Today, it's less than 10. No, we don't need more tax breaks for large corporations. And I think your point about the need for the president to stand tall and do not just what progressives want, what the vast majority of the American people want, and that is policy which represents the middle class and not just the 1%. So I hope, that if the Republicans do gain control of the Senate, the president gets his veto pen out, and the American people, I'm confident, will support him.
Okay. Senator Bernie Sanders, independent from Vermont, great to have you with us tonight here on The Ed Show. I appreciate your time.